They're going to stick with the same band. Is Elise and Fiora getting taken away by them? Zach from Splyce, and the question is as well, both these teams have won with a relatively similar draft over both the games.
Yeah.
Who changes what? The Warwick ban is going to be stuck with there by Splyce, but apart from that, everything looking pretty much the same.
Well, here comes the Xayah ban. Now, in Game 2, it was Blitzcrank that was banned out from ROCCAT. Wasn't played in Game 1. In Game 1, they banned the Twitch. So now we get to see Kha'Zix. Thresh you have to look at, likely to be the high priority here, unless ROCCAT, ooh, okay. They basically are daring Splyce to take the Rakan away, because ROCCAT in this situation know they have either Thresh or Rakan to pair with that Kalista, both are good lanes.
And that's the reason you ban out the Xayah as well, because if you didn't, you pick the Kalista and then you give Xayah Rakan away to Splyce.
But the danger here is if Splyce go Thresh and their jungle pick here, maybe it's the Flex Gragas, and then on the last pick in this rotation go Twitch, you have yourself a very deadly lane in its own right. So ROCCAT will likely take the Rakan in this rotation and the Lee Sin for the jungle matchup. Same thing we saw in the last game. And suddenly Splyce are actually kind of okay coming out of the initial trade.
It looks like a very even first set of picks for these two teams.
And a lot of people will be confused at why we would say that Gragas would be coming out okay. Typically people think Gragas can get pushed back in the early game. Well, that is the case, but Trashy does such a fantastic job outside of just the laning phase, and it wasn't the Twitch that we saw last week.
Caitlyn instead, still a very strong carry later on in the game, does a lot of work, scales up well, good for anti-siege as well. Splyce going to look towards the Galio ban, we've seen that from them every single game thus far. And Lucian getting taken away by ROCCAT, so they really feared Senkux's Lucian in that last game.
Yeah, he was able to output a lot of damage against Betsy in the early parts of the laning phase, then transitioned it into a winning matchup. To touch on this, Caitlyn, of course, good matchup into Kalista. You have the range advantage. With the Thresh, you have a lot of both safety and catch potential alongside it. But looking back at the ban phase here, Syndra gets taken away. Kennen has been banned in every single game. That means we have a couple of picks that are left up still that we have seen banned out previously. The Renekton is there. We've seen Splyce pick Rumble here in every single game of this series so far. And it did work out for them in the last game.
Give them the mid lane counter pick last as well. Gonna look to be the Rumble once more for Splyce. They really value his teamfight presence and his ability to push in that top lane. ROCCAT do have a top lane counter in the Gnar. That worked out incredibly well for them in the first game.
And that was banned out in the second game. That is what was denied. Now with the Orianna alongside, there's a scaling proponent without a solid matchup with like the Lucian, but Talia is up for should Splyce want to pick it. Aurelion Sol is up should Splyce want to pick it, or they could go with the Corki, the Kassadin, these picks that can do the similar thing alongside it. There's a lot of options for Splyce depending on where Senkux wants to go.
It's going to be the Corki for them. Saw that played a lot yesterday with to great effect. And once again, we're going to see the deadly Bombardier on the Summoner's Rift.
Deadly Bombardier.
I think
also quite daring at the same time.
Bombardier.
It's all good. It's okay.
You can have many adjectives for a Bombardier.
Well, look at what this comp does very well. Stepping up towards the tower does great things for Splyce here. You've got the Equalizer, you've got the Rocket Barrage, the poke damage coming from Corki, the ability to siege with Corki, with Caitlyn, the package, the Thresh to save anybody. That's what Splyce are looking to do. However, ROCCAT are looking to turn things upside down a little bit with this team fight composition. Kalista, Rakan, Gnar, Orianna. You pair it all together, maybe you get that big team fight win. You've got a little bit of side presence there with that Gnar that we saw in Game 1 work so well for Faxi too.
And how much can Brightstalk do on this Lee Sin in the early game as well? That is a big question that rattles around my brain. And if it rattles around yours as well, make sure you join in the conversation on Twitter at LOL Esports. If you think ROCCAT are going to take it 2-1 and continue their winning spree, it's hashtag ROCWin. And if you think Splyce are going to take it 2-1 and take the top spot in Group B, it's hashtag SPY win. Oh, for a second I thought I said B there instead of P, which is why
it's okay. It's SPY win for Splyce. I spy with my little eye.
A third game of a series. Onto the Summoner's Rift we go as ROCCAT take on Splyce for the final time today.
This has been a fun series so far. We've had a lot of explosive action. around that last game in the middle lane. A lot of emphasis on Wonder being able to arrive. Now we've got the equalizer, the package, everything going in the way of Splyce. I want to see whether they can actually get that lead in the early game to allow them to team fight effectively.
Whichever team gets the lead in the early game seems to be the team that takes the win. That's how it has gone thus far in this series. Both of them very good at extending a gold lead and maintaining a gold lead. And both these teams actually scale relatively well up into the later game as well. We've seen already from ROCCAT today how strong that Gnar can be. We've seen how good Trashy is on the Gragas. A lot of comfort picks across the board for these two teams. And this is the proving point, Stress. This is the point at which these teams have to stand up and be counted, each player individually and as a full 5-man unit.
And I want to talk about something that I was talking with Max Law last week about. He was on the analyst desk watching the ROCCAT series, and he was talking about how when he was on ROCCAT with Betsy in the spring split, the Orianna was never that big pick for Betsy that was looking great. It was always the likes of the Kassadin, the Vladimir, the Swain, that kind of thing that worked out well. He wasn't one of those mid laners that would just pick the Orianna and look great. But last week, we actually saw a good Orianna performance out of Betsy in that series against Fnatic in what was quite a surprising turn of events. So I want to see whether he can replicate that now against Splyce. It's not exactly the easiest matchup against Corki. You can trade back and forth with the auto attacks, but Corki will scale as effectively into the game, will have harass in the laning phase, will have AoE damage, and is likely to be able to push Orianna in. As soon as you use that phosphorus bomb a little bit on the wave, if you can clip Betsy at the same time, you can get a big amount of damage with the Thunderlord's proc to come through.
Question is, does Betsy go Rod of Ages, Nash's Tooth to the steal? Power of Evil championed it yesterday. Pridestalker actually getting a steal off here. Was pinged out, I believe, as Trashy goes for the counter steal.
Yeah, Trashy is aware of this. There was a ward that was placed in the river that spotted out Pridestalker. And Trashy, his jungle path allows him to be in the top side as well. That's why Corki is playing up towards the top half of the river, just to block Betsy. With this push, trying to just push Betsy under tower, deny him the ability to roam out. There's a ward in the jungle just next to Trashy as well, in case Pridestalker is doing anything tricky himself.
Faxi will step down into the river to make sure he's not going to get ganked by Trashy. Trashy does have the opportunity to blast Cone into the bush and then look for a gank up towards the top side. Would not be surprised at all if that is the path he decides to take. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Senkux is pushed back a little bit. Pridestalker's just going to farm up his Razor Beaks, and both junglers will have a relatively even start.
And they saw enough out of Wadid coming out of lane, going up towards Pridestalker to ward together, to know that Trashy can just take out the entire top side jungle of ROCCAT. You can see Pridestalker didn't necessarily stick around and clear the wolves fully. He didn't actually take any of the wolf camp, so it means that Pridestalker will be a little behind when it comes to that jungle experience. Blast Cone gets used, Pridestalker spotted out on the wards. Pridestalker knows that his blue's already gone.
Realizes his entire topside jungle is missing.
That's painful.
Yeah. Because he's wasted the time of going over there as well.
Yeah. And now he's going to have to recall out. The only thing available for him is his own Krugs, whereas Trashy still safely has his red, his Krugs, his wolves. You know, Gromp will be back up soon as well. The Raptors will be back up. The hook in the bottom lane is what's going to cause the action.
Onto Wadid. Look at the damage. The headshot comes out. Mickey jumps forward. Wadid first blood to Splyce.
Mickey with the Ignite gets the first blood. Headshot came through from Cobby, and it was enough to get the damage down. We talked about how this Rakan pairs well with the Kalista. Well, that's a little bit later on in the game. Still, Caitlyn Thresh, you've got to respect the damage that comes from that duo. And that means Splyce get first blood.
And Trash is looking up towards the top side, perhaps for a little bit more. Won't be able to get anything out of it, but continuing just to put the pressure on different areas of the map here for Splyce. Actually, here comes Trashy, flashes in. Faxi's going to try and flash his way away into the Mega. The wallop comes down, but so does Faxi. No, yes! Electro Harpoon.
Electro Harpoon for the kill. The ward was there, Faxi. You knew Trashy was in the top lane. Why did you stick around? I want to see his decision-making on that one again, because that's a weird one to die on. When you have the whole river warded, that's rough. He's going to TP to lane here. I think Splyce will finish this recall. They won't stick around for him.
There's such a vast difference between junglers as well. Pride Stalker game 1 was the one taking the impetus. He's the one making the plays. And here, what's he done in this time? He took some Wolves away, he's taken a Gromp away. Trashy's been able to get a gank up towards the top lane. We've already seen a kill in the bot lane for Splyce. They've extended this gold lead to 1,000, only 5 minutes in. And Pride Stalker's actually going to get this challenged by Mickey as well as the hook comes down. Doesn't quite steal it, but... Close to that steal, but Splyce, as you're alluding to, full control on this matchup from the 2 kills initially. Even in CS in the mid lane, up in CS in the top lane by quite a significant amount. And I think it's an important factor that Splyce, in this matchup, came topside, get Wonder ahead, because Wonder really struggled in the Nah versus Rumble matchup in game 1. Did not have any time to really hold his own. Wonder's going to continue to trade onto Faxi here, harasses him down. Actually, Faxi can turn this one around, does have the Mega coming up in a second,
Ooh.
Jumps to the side with a hop, and the leap will be able to continue to harass Wonder. Here comes the Mega Nah out. We saw there for a second, Tianan plays incredibly well on this Kalista, averages about 1,000 gold ahead at the 15-minute mark. Will need a massive comeback if that's to be the case in this game, or perhaps some pressure from his jungler, who once again has been spotted out by Trashy. Faxi does not have flash. There are minions there.
Was level 6 just as that engage came under.
Shockwave into Senkux. The exhaust comes down, and Betsy will just have to back his way away.
Senkux didn't even flash there, held his nerve. But that was a good shockwave. Oh, really? Oh, okay, it's for the honey fruit. I thought they were going for a bot lane roam there, but that's...
that would have been incredibly brave.
Yeah, I was going to say brave or stupid at that point.
It's brave if it works, it's stupid if it doesn't.
But that's just to deny or to prevent Senkux from losing out on experience in this middle lane now. We'll be able to collect the minions under the tower as Betsy roams out to try and clear up some of the vision. Nice little use of Thresh to get that honey fruit.
And I actually want to talk a little bit about Mickey's play for that first blood. I know it was a while ago, but his flay onto Wadid is what made that first blood happen, because Wadid was trying to get the shields off. And it comes back to something Mithy was talking about last week on the desk when he said, yes, Rakan is a very strong support, but mostly it's because people don't know how to play against him yet.
Sure.
Mickey seems to have started to get a read on Wadid's Rakan, and it's absolutely devastating this bottom lane now. Wadid will jump in, but look at the damage onto Sharna. Great the ignite as well. A great play from Mickey. He's making all the plays. And Wadid gets harassed down as well. They may even just go for the dive. Ace in the hole to Wadid. Not quite enough damage, but Splyce are dominating this bottom lane.
Yeah, we heard Wadid talk about how Mickey is, in his opinion, one of the best supports in Europe. Well, Mickey's starting to show it in this game. 2 kills to his name already off that ignite being available. And as you said, it's been Mickey making the majority of these plays. Cobby gets engaged on, has the knowledge and the trust that Mickey is going to keep him safe. And this is Tianan playing a little bit riskily here. Steps out from behind the minion wave right after, locks himself into an animation with the Rend. Hook into the trap, into the double flay, and Wadid, the only one left alive for ROCCAT in that bottom lane.
Just such great play by Mickey. It's actually blowing my mind how well he's playing this Thresh at the moment. And now with that advantage still in the bottom lane, a 12 CS lead alongside those 2 assists. Cobby's got his BF sword, building up towards the Zeal as well, and he'll be able to continually use that range advantage we talked about in picks and bans to harass down Tianan and Wadid. Wadid has the ignite. He's looking for kills in this bottom lane, but Trashy and Mickey want to stop him in his tracks. They're going to be able to get the flank up here. They're going in, the TP used as well. There's the lantern for Cobby, the route onto Tianan. He's trying to dodge his way around, but you cannot dodge away from the autos, and you cannot dodge away from the equalizer. 5-0. To Splyce.
Splyce with a clean play. Bot side didn't even utilize the Gragas ultimate. They even had the package on Senkux, but he was heading towards the mid lane. I mean, everything is going in Splyce's favor right now. This composition has worked so well for them. Bottom lane, the Caitlyn, the Thresh, they said, okay, you take the Kalista, you take the Rakan, we'll outplay you in the laning phase. Get first tower, get 5 kills to 0. Everything looking great.
Splyce have just been so precise in this bottom lane. Twice we have seen them set up these superb ganks, and they have just been able to take a slice out of the ROCCAT composition. Wonder's going to get jumped on here by Wadid and has got his flash. Will look to jump over the wall. Doesn't need to do it because they don't know where the rest of Splyce are. There's no vision for ROCCAT on this bottom side.
None at all, and that meant that Wonder was able to just walk away from a, normally fatal situation. And this was the engage that just came through. Keep in mind, Trashy has his ult just as this play starts. Flay hits Wooded again. Oh, wow, the trap got body slam into the trap, into the hook, everything landing.
It's just paradise.
Splyce. Yeah, it absolutely is. Easy setup, or at least they make it look easy.
You can see the unicorns there.
What is going on?
Were you wondering what was happening? It's the unicorns preparing for their big series against G2
last
next.
week, what is Romain doing next? And this is the answer. At least he's not in the pool this week.
That's true.
Although it's probably full after the thunderstorm last night here in Berlin.
I have to admit, I'm always impressed by the new ways that Romain can advertise and get toys for the unicorns, because I don't know how I'd find that amount of different unicorn-related toys. I haven't done that many unicorn searches.
I mean, unicorns are in right now, right? Like, there's like everybody's using the emoji.
I didn't realize they were like
there's like frappuccinos that are being made.
Frappuccinos?
Yeah, did you not? Oh, you didn't hit social media in that week. That was
same as that jump onto Betsy. Here the exhaust comes down. The shockwave used as well. Mickey looking for a hook. Is it gonna land? Not quite, but it forces Betsy back straight into the arms of the play. And Betsy has nowhere to go. Splyce are 6-0. They'll get a Rift Herald for themselves as well. And ROCCAT are looking down the barrel of a very scary gun.
Yeah, it's normally when the Orianna's standing in lane that you worry about, oh, the Rift Herald might break through what is normally such a strong mid laner to break. Well, it doesn't matter, because Orianna's dead right now. And Trashy summons the Rift Herald. Incoming charge into the middle lane, and it's likely going to be full health when she hits the second tower as well, so this could be the 2-tower play.
Boy! Go on, cheer with me, Stress. Oh, look at that. That's a bit of a chunk. They actually might get the second tower, as you say, Skep.
Yeah.
Pricetalker trying to jump in, knocked back by Trashy. He couldn't get to the eye because of Senkux and Trashy's great play. That's 2 towers and the play. Ace in the hole onto Betsy. Tries to put the orb into the midst of them. The charm onto 3 with Did. Trying to make the plays to keep his team alive. Baxy's going to jump onto Wonder here, but the equalizer comes down. Baxy's going to go mega. Nah, doesn't get the stun. Wonder flashes away from the wallop, but can he flash away from the building? The flame spitter comes back up. Wonder trying to do what he can. No flashes. Baxy jumps in. He misses again. The building and the minions are there. Baxy, you're going to burn down, my friend. Wonder with the outplays.
Mickey, as the spectator, was there just in case of assistance, but the 1 versus 1 rites of passage go to Wonder in this game. Sure, he had 2 kills up before that trade
and 30
started,
CS.
and a significant lead, but still, flashy outplays on the little mechanics. We get it so good, we're gonna get to see it again. It's so good, I forgot how to talk.
So it's a very balanced trade for a lot of it. Mega Nut is huge in this fight.
You're breaking down this one?
Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to... all I was going to say is just that he flashes out and avoids a W, and that's basically it. And then Wonder, dodges the Q. That's a bad miss.
Oh, that's a bad miss. And you can see... Not the nicest of feelings when you have your signature champion. Oh, shucks indeed. Now, Splyce are looking very pretty in this game. They have accelerated this gold lead a lot quicker than we've seen them do in the last couple of matchups. ROCCAT trying to get vision around that Baron pit, but it's still 7 minutes before that's up, so more just a vision in the river than anything else.
I think that's the crazy thing, is it's only 13:45 at this point in the game. Like, this feels like the kind of point that Splyce come alive when the Baron's up, like 25 minutes in, Splyce start fighting. This game has been so much faster out of Splyce. They've already got 4 towers to the 1 of ROCCAT, as you said, 7 kills up to 0, and they've been way faster to the punch on every single fight.
And look at all the spikes they're going to hit as well. You've almost got Static Shiv on Kobe, you've got Trinity Force finished onto Senkux, almost got the Leandries onto Wonder. They are in such a strong position comparatively when Betsy only has Sorcerer's Shoes and parts of a Morello Nomicon.
And that's the really frustrating thing about playing against Corki, is there's almost no point in the game when he's...
Oh, baby, the hook comes down, Yonan will heal and flash away. And Mickey just... You can't miss a hook. I didn't realize Q had been coded as a skill shot this patch, but apparently for Threshers this week it is.
Wonder's going to try the 1v1 again.
Vexy does have Mega now. Going to look up towards the top lane for the time being. The charm comes in. They do get the knock of the shockwave onto 3 as well. The hook's going to connect. Mickey with the box down. Splyce managing to survive as Pricetalker's the first to fall. Kianan and Betsy were did there as well underneath the tower. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, Wonder and Faxi continued to trade, but no one really took the advantage.
And we're so early on in the game that with only the Fiendish Codex and the Sword Boots, that Orianna ult doesn't do a whole lot. You saw it catch basically 3 people and Splyce just walk away without any real threat coming to them. And we were talking about Corki, well, you know, when he gets Trinity Force in his boots, that's one good spike for him. Then he gets another Infinity Edge, and that's a great spike for him. And then he gets Static Shiv or Rapid Fire, and that's a great spike for him. Gets a Void Staff. Whew. Every single item has significant impact for this guy in the middle lane. And then you put into the siege, the poke potential. Woodid looks for that engage. Great start. Shockwave hits, but no damage to follow up to get these kills. Maybe it would have been enough for ROCCAT, but remember, Kianan had been hooked already. He was already such low health, there was no way of him getting into the fight. And basically, that's the end of that one.
If the gold's even at that point, that Shockwave kills Kobe.
Yeah.
Probably killed Senkux as well. It did a huge amount, Trashy as well. It did a huge amount of damage, but without the Morello Nomicon, without Leon's Echo or Leandri's on top of that, Betsy just isn't putting out the DPS he would like to be at the moment. 8 kills to 0 up for Splyce, a 7,000 gold lead. 16 minutes in. It's the largest gold lead they had at the 15-minute mark this entire year. And Splyce are looking very much on the road to Worlds.
And consider game 1, where ROCCAT were in control almost the entire game. There was a small portion where Splyce managed to fire back. Now Splyce are in complete domination mode here. It's a far cry, considering this has been a particularly tough series for both teams.
Senkux has to Valkyrie away.
Some awkward drafts, some extended pauses. You know, the news we had through about Trashy. This has been quite the series for both teams, and ROCCAT, unfortunately, not able to continue in game 3.
He just doesn't care about a Shockwave. That's knocked back. Goodbye, Orianna. Splyce, 9-0 up.
That's the problem now, is ROCCAT are pretty much into what in other sports would be called like the championship rounds, right? Is you're into game 3 where everything counts. It's a best of 1 again. Now Woodid goes in.
Chan comes in onto 2. Pride tries to get onto the backline. Does take out Senkux. Mickey there as well. Wonder's joined the fray though. The equalizer comes down. That's 1 dead. They're looking for Woodid and Kianan as well. Kianan dead. Kalista gone. Woodid pulled away as well. Splyce absolutely devastating ROCCAT at the moment. Fax is there by himself, but there's not much he can do against 4 members of the Splyce boys.
Diving under the inhibitor tower at 17.5 minutes. There's not even a Baron to pick up. The Drake is a Cloud Drake. Nobody wants that at this point when you can get kills under the tower. Splyce may take it on the way out as they clear out the bottom side jungle, but they've got so few options of what to actually do that they may as well just try and continue to fight. They'll recall, go and spend some of that gold, and now reset themselves, because look at how clean this is. They're so far ahead that Woodid tries desperately to get another one of these engages, but from behind, it's just not happening. First kill of the game for ROCCAT goes on to Senkux, but Splyce managed to really punish ROCCAT from the tail end of that fight.
It doesn't even need to be clean at this point. It is still clean. They're still playing these fights incredibly well, but because they're so far ahead, 9,000 gold at the 18-minute mark. That's 500 gold a minute they have gained over their opposition. They can just do what they want. They've got Infinity Edge on Kobe. Senkux looks like he's building up towards a rapid fire cannon, and look at these gold differences as well as they pop up on our screens. AD carry, you've got 2,500 gold between the two of them. Support, which is one of the areas that doesn't usually get a big gold lead even when your team's ahead. 2,000 gold extra on the support. In fact, Mickey almost has as much gold as Faxi. That's a pretty big lead for a support.
Almost has as much as Kianan and Pride Stalker.
Should have gone Frozen Mallet, man. Have you ever played Quick Thresh?
No.
It is a wonderful thing to play, an incredibly painful thing to play against.
Fair enough.
Wonder's going to get kicked back. That's an incredibly painful kick for him as well as Pride Stalker and the rest of ROCCAT look to close in on him. Then will come out. Wonder's going to get charmed up as well and knocked up. This should be a kill for ROCCAT as they will not take down one down the Sonic Wave. Misses, you godly man! No way does he escape from that! Look at Grams, he's got his hand in his hands.
The Zhonya's.
The equalizer, the Zhonya's. Hianan's underneath the tower as well. Wonder's still alive! No way do you do that!
Kobe's laughing. Wonder. I mean, how did he get away from that?
Oh, ROCCAT, you spoil sports. Yanin and we did eventually get the kill. Kobe's on a killing spree. Tracy's chasing them in as well. Explosive cast to knock him back. Yanin just tries to farm up a few minions, but eventually he will fall as well. 14 kills to 2 in favor of Splyce. A 10,000 gold lead for them as well.
Oh, Wonder went back into the fight. Thought the rest of the team was coming. He was.
Go on, Mickey. You're so far. We did.
What did he do that for?
Yeah, exactly. Give Mickey the kill, man. Come on. Best support in Europe.
Oh, we're going all the way from back here. Okay, so Wonder, I was. So the king actually kind of almost saved him a bit. So Wonder still had his flash. I thought he was just going to Zhonya's here, but Wonder clearly knew the game plan. Oh, the shield was just enough. Oh, that's painful. That is really painful.
If they weren't already this far behind, that's the sort of thing Tilt's made of. But because they're so far behind, they're like, yeah, okay, we're going to try and kill this guy.
I think Wonder tried to recall and stopped recalling. Yeah, it got greedy.
I actually think Splyce called for him to delay because the rest of the team's on their way.
Yeah, this is what happened. This was like,
yeah. I think that's all you can say about it.
Oh, we're back into a fight.
Oh, fight up in the top lane. Faxi's dead. Trashy's on a killing spree. There was a short period in this game where I thought Splyce might have had the quickest game in the European LCS this split, which is at 23 minutes. I don't think it anymore.
No.
Although with Baron buff, maybe if they just win one fight after this push, they can win. And it looks like ROCCAT actually want the fight as they're going to try and collapse in. Faxi is dead, of course, but Pride on his way. There's Wadid with the charm. Double charm equalizers come out, though. Wadid's doing what he can to distract, but he's already dead. And Splyce there. Pride is across the wall and has landed a Sonic Wave on that Baron. Kobe's going to kill Yana, not quite. The shockwave pulls him closer, and Kobe will be thankful for that. Betsy trying to get the kill, can't do it. Baron did go over towards Splyce during all of this, and Pride is trying to jump his way away. Sanko splashes the wall, just needs a phosphorus bomb or an auto to land. Not quite enough, but the minions help him out. And Splyce get the Baron, get a few kills, and are looking for that win.
Yeah, you were talking about the fastest win. I don't necessarily think they're going to get it because they have to recall out right now, but Splyce have been putting on a clinic this entire game long. Once again, Wonder, Senkux, and Kobe have been enabled from a great early game, and they're items ahead of their counterparts. An item and a half up on the AD carry at least, and now Splyce. This was a fight, again, we did great engage if they're even. Sadly, they're not, so kind of difficult for ROCCAT to fight back on this. And as you said, Bright Stalker had landed the Q. Trashy and Wonder and Senkux were all there denying him any kind of entrance into the pit. And from there, Splyce should easily be able to close this game out.
It's just been pretty dominating from Splyce, in all honesty. And this is the sort of performance that you want to see out of the best teams in a region, which I think you have to start looking at Splyce as one of the best teams in Europe at the moment, because with this win, they take top spot in Group B. And if Unicorns lose later on, they will be secured in top spot in Group B. H2K yesterday, perhaps slightly disappointing. But Splyce, after losing game 1 of this series, have come back incredibly strong, have not looked like they're faltering at any point with a lead. And if they can start taking these leads in games against the bigger teams, then they are definitely a challenger for at least the playoffs, if not the playoff finals. That's a charm on towards the AD carry. Kobe pulled back, Pride Stalker looking for the flank. Hyonan has put that Fate's call in, but gets hooked once again from Mickey, and that's an unstoppable Kobe as Splyce look to finish out this game. The equalizer comes out, the shockwave does absolutely nothing. Wadid's going to take an ace in the hole to the face. Senkux, one more auto will do it, but you can't quite get there. The Gatling gun cannot shred through Wadid enough. Senkux almost kills himself. Pride Stalker, that's Kobe goes legendary, a delayed quadra. Come on, Splyce.
It's not the Penta, it doesn't count anymore, unfortunately. That was 4 kills, though, for Kobe lined up. That means Splyce have won the game. It's been theirs from the early game. Splyce, great performance against ROCCAT.
Oh, this snake has a massive bite. They're looking for the Nexus Towers. They're gonna take the win. ROCCAT fall 2-1 as Splyce take the series.
You talked there about the strength of these two teams, and when you look at the teams they've beaten in the groups, you have to look that they are at least mid to top of the table contenders for this split. It was a close-fought series in the first 2 games. hard to judge exactly where the skill level for both teams is, but you've got to say that they were competitors against each other for the majority, but Splyce finding their groove in Game 3, coming out very strong, and Cobby once again putting in a good performance alongside the rest of Splyce.
Yeah, I think it's just Splyce all around in those second 2 games were able to hold on to a lead and close it out pretty effectively, and you can see ROCCAT after that second game just seemed a little bit defeated. It felt like their legs had given in, to use a sporting phrase. They didn't have the energy, they didn't have the fight left in them after fighting so long against Fnatic last week and fighting so long against Splyce this week, but that's taking nothing away from them as a team. They continue to improve, they continue to impress, and if they can continue along this trajectory, they are looking for those playoff spots at the end of the split.
Yeah, so much came from the bottom lane of Splyce in this series, at least in the 2 games they won. Mickey showing up on the Thresh. We saw good performances from them after that tricky game 1, even taking on the Xayah and the Rakan from ROCCAT that other teams have fallen to. So it was a fun series to watch. We heard Wadid saying, Mickey, one of the best supports in Europe. I'll be the best if I can take him down. Unfortunately, not today. But certainly, ROCCAT's still looking pretty strong. Splyce, however, the stronger team on the day.
Splyce are looking strong and just took their 3rd win in a row. Let's hand it over to Shox and Henning to wrap up that series.
Thank you very much, Medic, and we will be joined by both Senkux and Mickey from Splyce after the break to cover G2 versus Unicorns of Love. They have earned that right. No, it was actually already arranged beforehand, but they did now earn that right because they won the series in the end in what has to have been the most convincing game of the 3, looking for both sides, because ROCCAT did have a very convincing game 1, and then Splyce a bit more trouble in game 2, but this was super, super clean on each front, so much so that they could even play around a bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this was such a convincing game number 3, and I'm a bit surprised because ROCCAT, they did draft these winning lanes across the board, but just, I don't know, jungle bans towards Pride Stalker just shuts him down, and Splyce so much stronger, both through that early game and then with the mid-game team fighting comps. Wunder showed that he can play this Rumble really well. Definitely something that you have to keep your eye out for in the following games. And Rakan, for Wadid, has been this big respect pick that we've really been thinking highly about. Might not be considered such a specialty anymore.
Yeah, not a high priority maybe anymore for them, because we've seen the evolution of the bottom lane matchups throughout the games. In game 2, we had the Rakan and the Xayah beaten by the Braum and the Kalista in lane. This time around, ROCCAT said, well, we'll pick the Kalista and the Rakan, which of course you think you kind of have the best of both worlds. But again, Cobby and Mickey actually had a very, very good game once again. Let's take a look at one of the replays in the bottom lane, because a lot of the action all around was centered around the bottom lane. So how did they get the upper hand here?
Yeah, the thing with this duo lane from Yarnon and Wadid is that we saw it earlier on. I think it was week 2. They played it against Misfits, where they really just won the lane and stomped, and were super impressive. But the thing there is that they were able to snowball. They got the first blood, and then they were able to just build off that. And this is such a snowball lane. So when Mickey just is so godlike with these hooks, he's such a good Thresh player. If you get shut down early on in the lane, this duo lane just falls off, and we know Kalista, she has to get up close and personal with the enemy team, and when you're up against a Gragas, a Rumble, a Corki, that's not something you want to do if you're falling behind, and they just fall so far behind this game.
Yeah, great stuff out of the Splyce bottom lane there as well, and Splyce is just going to keep winning fights. Why do you think ROCCAT didn't have any opening anywhere? If we look at the mid lane, if we look at the top lane, Betzeril didn't have as much an influence as he did even in that losing game 2. The top lane not either, but what was kind of the main fault? Is it just Pride Stalker not being able to get things going across the map?
I think Pride Stalker didn't look as impressive as he did in game 1 at all. We've got to talk about the top lane, because Faxi got that Gnar versus Rumble matchup, which he piloted very well in the first game, as he was able to get the advantage, just put so much pressure on towards the side lane. But this game, when Trashy was putting his attention top, he was just show that even if you're Gnar against Rumble, it doesn't matter if Rumble is so far ahead in the gold.
Yeah, it was not pretty for the side of ROCCAT. They won a bunch of fights, and there was never really a chance for ROCCAT to get back into the game. We're going to take a look at one of the final encounters, which ended up with Splyce pushing through the base. In the end, they were already on the steps.
Yeah, this is really what ROCCAT wants to do. Get the team fight engaged with the Rakan and the Orianna together. At this point, though, Splyce is so far ahead in the gold count, so even though they don't have Wunder here early on, he's able to TP in and just turn this fight around. Just a clean team fighting comp, and we mentioned that Splyce were out team fighting Unicorns of Love last week.
Yeah.
This time they out team fought the beaters of Fnatic in ROCCAT, so maybe the best team fighting team in Europe.
Yeah, maybe the question will be answered. The best support in Europe, maybe you have to believe what Wadid, who said it was kind of a toss-up between him and Mickey. And Mickey X is the player of the series for this one as well, which is always tough because Kabi obviously also put on a great performance in Game 2. But Mickey X very enabling, and that's also, whenever Splyce has been doing well, Mickey X has been one of the big enablers of this team.
So impressive on this threshold. I mean, every time he gets his hands on this champion, he makes the plays happen. Also had the Braum counter pick prepared to the Rakan Saya in game number 2. So definitely deserves the player of the series here.
All right, what are we taking away from this? I know we always like to say ROCCAT isn't going to be sad about this loss, but you know, on the other hand, if they've shown that they can challenge some of the best teams in Europe, they should be a bit sad that they weren't able, I think, recover as good as they would have wanted, because they had a fantastic game 1 and then completely crumbled, which is not what you want to see.
Yeah, exactly. With the impressive game 1 that they had, I thought that they were able to build off that even better than they were able to in the end. So I don't think ROCCAT are too happy at all with this loss, even though they were able to take a game. I mean, after showing that they could beat Fnatic, I think they were expecting to beat Splyce as well. I mean, I predicted it, so that's got to be the truth, of course. But not enough.
Yeah, how is the Henning prediction scorecard coming along? Actually, we should go back and watch, because
someone's going to, I guess, but I'm not going to.
I know Quickshot was giving you a hard time.
That well, I predicted Fnatic wins both times though. So
yeah, but it's not about winning the prediction game; it's about passing on the analysis.
That's a good point.
Yeah, that's a great point. I have a lot of those. Well, coming up next, though, is the Unicorns of Love as they get their chance for revenge against the Kings of Europe. Stay with us.